Welcome back to another Unapologetic with Eric King. I have a special guest in the studio. So I got my two kids because they out, and I got my daughter working the board. So I'm so happy for her, and she got the opportunity to bring me in. She did actually better than me. She allowed me to come in without any mess ups, so I appreciate that. And so later on, we got my middle child. What do his mic not on, but he goes by what is it? Turn his mic on. What do you go by?
E. King Jr. on the radio.
E. King Jr. on the radio. All right, turn his mic off. so we got him going on today, but we got a very special. I guess, guest segment. So last time we had, we talked about Trump. I had a little bit, of error with my co-host, but we're not gonna go into that. So this afternoon, we're trying to drive the conversation and pivot a little bit more into Donald Trump's second term. So he has secured his second term. We're not going to jump into too many politics, or we're not going to talk a lot about what's going on. But over the hour, we're going to unpack, what it means in, the Black and brown communities, as far as education, housing, politics, economics, all that. His first term had a lot of, what's the word I can say? Had a lot of bit of the struggle. And so, I know we lost a lot of friends. We lost a lot of people that we cared about during the pandemic and even before the pandemic. And one of those pandemics were hate. And I would like to avoid all of the hate talk and all of, I guess, the struggle that we got going on in America right now. So we're going to try to figure out what's going on, how to move forward, and how we can be the very best people that we can be. So we got two special guests today. We have James Bates. James is an individual that I've known since he was roughly 5 years old. He is an avid Trump supporter, and it is something that has, for the most part, baffled me because his brother, who is also one of my fraternity brothers, is one of, someone that I admire, care for, and all that other good stuff. And him and his brother don't necessarily see eye to eye as it relates to politics. So we're going to have him on, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and bring on Karlton Laster. So Karlton is another one of my fraternity brothers, and right now he's in Minnesota, but he has done some work here in Cleveland. So we're gonna bring him on, and he's gonna be a bit of the rebuttal. But I do want everybody to be added and come in and talk and be a part of this conversation, because this is something that is very important, not only to the United States, but also Black and brown communities. So we're going to touch on some of the items that are affiliated with our community and things that we have going on. Also, if you'd like to join in to this conversation, give us a call, 216-271-0959, and I'll be able to add you on to the radio. Also, use a hashtag unapologetic Trump's second term on social media to see if you would like to be a part of our conversation and all that. But before we jump into that, I do want to look at a couple facts. So Biden is going out, and periodically we hear in our community that Biden didn't do anything for our community. So before we jump into our mix, I want to go down and add in a couple facts. So recently there was a post, and that post had 15 to 20 facts about the Biden administration as it relates to the black and brown community. So let's start with number one. And so what I did was I asked my assistant to go through and do a little fact checking. So the first one it is the Biden administration has invested a record more than $16 billion in historically black colleges and universities. And so that stat comes from the White House. Now, this is important because in Trump's first term, he paraded a fair amount of HBCU individuals and presidents into the White House and told about everything that he had done for HBCUs. But in reality, it was the Biden administration that actually did the work and supplied $16 billion to historically black colleges. Also, on February 25th, almost 3 years ago, Biden had nominated the first African American Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson. And so, despite all that Trump has said about what he want to do for the black and brown community, when he had the opportunity to promote or select Supreme Court justices that were people of color or even black women, let's just say it like that, he punted. And so it was the Biden administration that actually did that and allowed the first black female justice to be a part of the Supreme Court. Next, so let's hit the next one. Next, the American Rescue Plan created 2.65 jobs for black workers. And so I had some fact checkers look at that, and what it seems is that is 100% true, and not just 2.6 million jobs, but 3.2 million jobs. And once again, that is a stat that has come from the White House. So all this rhetoric and all these things that we talk about, during this presidential season that had to do with Trump, it had to do with what Trump was providing, America or black Americans. When we, hit the rubber to the road, yes, Trump pardoned quite a bit of black and brown people. He also helped quite a bit of our stars get out of trouble. But when it came down to actually doing the work and doing the things that matter, he did more bragging than producing. And unfortunately, when we look at who we need to blame as it relates to what's going on in our country, what's going on with black and brown individuals, we first have to look and be real about it. One, we have a two-party system. And in that two-party system, you're either going to be Republican or you're going to be Democrat. If the Democrats are doing so much for our society, so much for our country, so much for black and brown individuals, we got to start bragging more. There are so many things that I found out on this sheet that was not bragged about, was not talked about through our talking heads, was not brought up when we were talking about anything that has to do with promoting the Democratic agenda in black and brown communities. Now, the positive part about it is no matter what, we've been, in 4 years, we're going to have the opportunity to pick another leader. And in that 4 years, once again, they're going to come in our community and they're going to continue to talk about what they can and cannot do or what they should and should not do, in our community. And let me be real. I'm not one that enjoys being, played. I'm not one that enjoys people coming to see me periodically just to get something out of me. So for my Democrats that are listening, for everyone that is listening that votes Democratic, let's hold ourselves and hold the Democratic Party to a higher level and provide them some walking papers, so to speak, and focus on exactly what we need in our communities to make our communities move forward. So we do have, after our Wednesday vibe check, we do have first James Bates up. And so what I want you to do is give us a call at 216-271-0959, and so that you can be a part of the conversation. So we're gonna start our vibe check right quick. and we're gonna come back after you didn't sweat, you didn't heat it up a little bit, and get us moving. So this is Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. Yeah. Welcome back. Unapologetic with Eric King. I got my engineers helping out, so I appreciate Caitlin. You're doing a great job over there, lady. You're doing a great job. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna bring in James Bates, and so James, like I said, is a avid. So let's throw that on. Avid Trump supporter, and so we're gonna bring him into the conversation. James, you there, bro?
I am here.
What's going on, man? How you doing? Did you enjoy our mix?
Yes, that was wonderful. I love that Mi Gente, J Balvin.
We got that from, back in the day, your brother used to be a DJ at the University of Akron. So we every now and again we got to add him in or add some groove in. What's going on, man? Where you located at right now?
Right now, I just crossed over the Maryland-Pennsylvania state line.
Okay.
Back to Cleveland from D.C.
Okay. All right. So you had the opportunity to party in D.C., and you partied with your purpose, which was to support Donald J. Trump's second inauguration or second election. Is that about right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's start off at the top. So Trump has touted his administration's impact on job creation, economic growth. Do you believe his politics in these areas specifically benefit black and brown communities? And if so, in what way, from your standpoint?
Well, I think that, his policies are going to be for all Americans, not just only black Americans, but all Americans. I think that was the big resounding message from this election. A lot of people obviously were feeling that they were hurting. I think if you look at exit polls, he shifted the electorate towards him. Every county in America shifted Republican in this election. Mm-hmm. It's something truly historic, something we haven't seen in quite some time. I think that the policies that he's going to put in place are really going to help not only black Americans, but all Americans. And I want to put a point on something that I did really appreciate that he said in his inauguration address on Monday, was he specifically called out and thanked the support specifically of black and Hispanic voters. And I thought that was really something that really resonated with me as a black voter, to see that he acknowledged that.
Okay.
Because this was a victory that wasn't any specific demographic. This was all demographics. This was black, this was white, Hispanic, Asian, LGBTQ, everybody. He increased his voter turnout with all of those demographics.
So based on everything that you said, the idea that, the tide, the single tide lifts all boat. The problem is when one boat is at a lower level than another level, raising everybody up to to a level only helps out those that are at the most or the top level. And we've seen over the years a focus input or a focus less like a, well, let me say it like this, a more focused effort on economic development for specific communities have always benefited rather than the one tide lifts all boat. Why do you think that is something that Republicans are more, I guess, concerned with, knowing that there is a inequality in America?
Well, here's the thing. Inequality in America is something that has always existed, and not just in America, but throughout the world. There's always been the haves and have-nots, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's just a reality of the world, and in this country as well. I think what we need to focus on, obviously, is equality of opportunity and not necessarily equality of outcome. A lot comes into how you were raised, how your parents raised you, what things they instilled in you. A lot of that, I think, comes back to the family and making sure that you have a strong foundation to be, successful in America. I mean, my brother. My brother's highly educated, right? My brother's doing really great and everything. I only got a high school degree. I didn't finish college, but I'm doing, pretty well for myself, I would say, all things considered. But I actually give that credit to my mother, to my father, to the education that I did have. And I think that everybody, if you put your mind to it, has the opportunity to do something great. And I'll give you a real good example of that, right? Our current vice president, J.D. Vance, who's from the state of Ohio, if you know his background and you know his story,
I do.
I mean, that story should resonate with so many Americans. I mean, he was poor. Mother was a drug addict. I mean, didn't have a father. How many people in America have a similar story? And now that man at 40 years old is second in line to the presidency.
Yeah, I think
only in America is that, possible.
I think the saddest part about that is that what you just outlined was this thing called trauma bonding or trauma touting or finding, going out and bringing people in that has a similar ideal about hard times. In reality, to be perfectly candid, in reality, an individual from rags to riches has always been a part of the American lexicon. And so in doing that as a part of the American lexicon, that is natural. An individual that comes to America because they know that no matter what you have, someone will buy it. And so we move forward on that. And I agree. There are times when we need to look internally and say, you know what? I get what you have going on, and how much of what you have going on or the luxuries that you have are you taking advantage of? So what I do want to go back to or switch a little bit. So critics argue that the opportunity zone benefited developers more than the community they targeted. And so how do you respond to that criticism? Because that was something that was a part of the part of both campaigns, actually, that was talking about the opportunity zone. How would you address concerns that Trump's policies on immigration and policing, deportation harmed migrating groups? So I know it's a two-part. So let's first start with the opportunity zone. How do you respond to the critics of the opportunity zone?
You're saying that they benefited the developers?
Yeah, so the opportunity zone, if you look at it, was supposed to be something that was once again a rising tide. A rising tide will help all boats. But in reality, if you look at the opportunity zone, it just not solely, it helped out, or the critics say it helped out the actual developers who already had the money than the individuals that are working with the developers.
Well, I think, though, in that, you have to give those things time. I think oftentimes when there's something or policies that are implemented, you may not see the full grasp of the effects of that for some time.
Gotcha.
I mean, the investment that's put into those zones, right, is essentially to, build up, whether it be housing or, businesses, et cetera. People have to see that kind of throughout. We could even look at, for example, and it's interesting because even, Joe Biden in his farewell address had mentioned that some of the things that they implemented, right, it'll be some time before you see any of the, if you will, fruits of that labor, so to speak. So I think we still have to give it some time to see where it really, where it is to really put an actual, a judgment on that.
I agree, but the issue in this whole time thing is frequently when you look at what was touted or what was said on the campaign trail, it was a sense of urgency right now. We're going to fix the prices of food right now. We're going to do everything right now. It seems like the argument of time is only beneficial when it's brought up against, to be perfectly candid, when we talking about some of the things that Donald Trump is actually saying. A lot of stuff that he is saying and touting on, during his campaign trail, it does take time. It will take longer than 2 years, and it will take longer than 3 years. But most of the individuals and most of the times when you hear what's going on, he's going to change day one. That's not reality. So you say time, I say time, but let's talk about reality.
I understand that. I understand that. And I actually agree with you there. But you got to understand that's political rhetoric.
Correct.
Every politician says it's going to happen, right now. It's going to happen tomorrow. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, we got to live in reality. The reality of that is it is going to take time.
Yeah.
You know, but I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he did day one in office get to sign those executive orders
Right.
and getting down to the business of at least getting the ball rolling with those policy initiatives.
Right. But which every
And
not to cut you off, but
yeah, sure.
every president does that. Actually, we had it with
Yeah,
Obama. The executive orders are, and sometimes, to be perfectly candid, if I'm looking as a conscientious voter, is more of a problem than actually a fix for our political issue.
and
I didn't hear you say it one more time. It looked like you
oh,
going in and out.
sorry about that.
That's okay.
But yeah, but no, I do agree with you though that these things are going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I think that if we look at where people are,
Mm-hmm.
and I know people want that immediate relief,
Correct.
but there's only so much that really any president is going to be able to do right away. It's not like he's only been in office for 2 days, right? So it's not like he can, all of a sudden, hey, everybody's got a job.
Right.
Everybody has, this immediate, if you will, opportunity. That's going to take time.
Correct.
And I don't think, quite honestly, that anybody would say that, that these promises that were made were going to be, rolled out, if you will, right away today to have that immediate impact right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we come back and see maybe where we are 6 months from now, 8 months from now, or 9 months from now,
Right.
then we can start to see where we are as far as the progress that has been made. Oftentimes presidents, when they come in, they, have that, well, this is what we're going to do in the first 100 days, for
Yep.
example, So maybe let's take a look and see where things are in 100 days and then go, like I said, and see where things are in 6 months before we kind of cast judgment.
Yeah.
And I would say that for any president.
No,
Whether it's a
I
Democrat,
100% agree.
Republican, or whatever.
No,
Yeah.
no. I get you. I think, for you and I, right? So, yes, I've been knowing you since you were, 12, 13, 14, whatever.
Yeah.
For you and I, there's a commonality on the understanding that rhetoric is rhetoric. But what happens is rhetoric becomes weaponized language, and that weaponized language becomes harmful. And I think far too often people like us, who are conscientious, I don't think it has anything to do with education level. I think it has more to do about the ability to pay attention. Individuals that are conscientious, that pay attention, and they recognize that when we weaponize, or when politicians or leaders or somebody use and make these just say these things, those are dangerous, because there are individuals that are fly by night that take those to heart and take everything to heart. Look at January 6th. I mean, whoever you are, whatever side that you look upon, those are angry people. And when you weaponize anger, you make America not great. You make it even worse off than it has been prior to that individual actually being a part of the American diaspora. So before I jump off of that, let's look at this concept of immigration. So we got this. We have, go back to one of Trump's policies on immigration is deportation and things of that nature.
Yes.
Let's be real. You and I both know most Americans are not taking the jobs that the individuals that are immigrants taking. Let's be real about that, because far too often we hear this rhetoric that's saying, "Oh, they're taking our jobs." Americans are not asking for those jobs. So the deportation implements are going to hurt America more than they're actually going to benefit us.
So do you think, though, that it's fair? I'll throw a question.
Say it one more time.
For lack of a better way to say
Go
it.
go back. You went out a little bit. Go back. Start over
I'm
again.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, but do you think it's fair
Mm-hmm.
that those who are hopping over the fence to come in here for those jobs or any jobs, do you think, though, that is fair?
What I think is fair is that depending on if we're going to treat black and brown, if you're going to treat brown individuals that same way, we treat non-brown individuals that same way. So if we're going to
I agree with that.
Well,
But you
if we're going,
understand? But
well,
you
hold on,
understand?
wait. Let me talk. We're going to talk about fair. If we're going to deport those that are immigrants or migrating or overstaying their visas or coming here on a vacation and just stay, let's deport everybody. I believe that is fair. If we go back to rising, lift all boats, we're also talking
Yeah.
about, deporting all those that are here illegally. So I think far too often we have to make an enemy in America. And Donald Trump's enemy was anyone that did not look like him, as well as did not have the finances as him, which the immigration issue of from Mexico, those hopping the fence, is a perfect target for him to actually find an enemy that all Americans, quote unquote, all good Americans can jump on. So go ahead.
So my response to that is this: you had individuals coming in through the southern border
Correct.
from well over 100 sovereign nations. They
Mhm.
weren't all coming up from Central America or South America. They were
Correct.
coming from as far away as Asia, from
Correct.
China,
Correct.
right?
Mm-hmm.
From Europe, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we talk about immigration, because I know that intimately because I'm married to an immigrant,
Right.
right? My in-laws are immigrants.
Exactly.
They came the right way,
Mhm.
you know. They naturalized, they did everything. And I know personally, having gone through that with my own wife, the cost, the time,
Mhm.
the effort, and everything. I'll be quite honest with you. People get really caught up in the illegal immigration debate. The legal immigration system is broken as well and
Correct.
needs reform as well. But back to the original point about, I guess, illegal immigration and
Mhm.
all, I don't think that it's fair that even if you came here on a visa and you overstayed, that visa, you also should be deported. I mean, if you broke the law, you broke the law. It should be that simple. We're
Correct.
either a country of laws, right, or we're not. And if I went to France right now and I went on a visa and I overstayed my visa, they'd have every right to send me back here to the States.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
so let's wrap it up right quick. Let's get a little personal. So you're an individual that was a part of Trump's train, so to speak, TT. Trump's train since the beginning.
Yeah.
What personal
Yeah, I was
experience?
there from the beginning.
Yeah. No, for real. No. Because
Yeah.
we've had debates about this. And when I say
Yes.
the beginning, I'm even going towards the birther, right?
Yes. Yes.
When the birther and who is Obama and this and that, which still hasn't gotten a full apology for.
Yeah.
But at any case, let's go back. What personal experience shaped your confidence in Trump's leadership, even from the beginning?
For me, I'll reference back in 2016. I was interviewed by the New York Times,
Mm-hmm.
and Yamiche Alcindor, who many people will know, who was actually called out by Trump several times in some of those press conferences.
Right.
She did an article back in 2016. You can look it up, and it was about those who had previously voted for Obama that were then switching their vote to Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'll say it just what I said then, which was I voted for Trump in 2016, in 2020, in 2024, in the same enthusiasm that I did with Obama, which was hope and change,
Right.
to use Obama's slogan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I saw a system in Washington that was broken. I saw promises that were made
Mm-hmm.
that were not, that were not fulfilled, right?
Right.
And I said, what do I have to lose by trying something different?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I've never had a bad, idea about Donald Trump prior to him running for president. Neither did Chuck Schumer,
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton, none of those people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting. Everybody saw Jimmy Carter's funeral last week. Obama and Trump yucking it up.
Yeah, but that
So
once again,
how do you sit next to somebody
Yeah.
that you basically called Hitler?
Come on,
you know
man.
what I mean?
Come on, man. All right, I feel you, and the optics of it, I get it. But in reality, there's certain things that if you work in a corporation, you have to do, and some of those is allowing yourself to be in Congress or connected to those that you may or may not feel close to. I get it, and that's how I took it.
Oh,
To be
absolutely.
perfectly honest, I've
But-
worked
at the
in.
same-
I've worked in society, so I get it. So, but I appreciate your time. We gonna head out. Say hello to your nephews and nieces. They working the board for me today.
Will do.
All right, man.
Yes.
You take it easy. Be cool,
Love you.
and tell them how they can reach you.
Hey, you can reach me at ilovejamesbates@hotmail.com.
All right, man. We're gonna go out. We're gonna take a break. So we gonna
All right, I'll take all questions and comments.
I appreciate you coming out and appreciate you spending time, man. I love you too, bro. You be easy, drive safe.
Brother.
Tell everybody I said hey. So let's go ahead and take a quick break. We gonna head out, and on the other side come in, and we gonna bring in Karlton. All right. So I appreciate your time.
Appreciate the time.
All right, man. Go ahead.
I said, what's up?
I will, man. Go do your thing.
All
This
right.
is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back. Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. So we just got done speaking with James Bates. So our next level or thing, we're going to go ahead and bring in Karlton Laster. Let's see who's on the line with us right now. Thank you for calling in. This is Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. You got a comment, or is this Karlton?
This is Karlton. How's it going, man?
What's going on, man? How you feel?
Good.
We got your nieces here working your niece here working the board, so we trying to get it right.
So they doing a great job.
Oh, they're doing better than me. Then we gonna bring in the middle child in, and he going to add a little commentary. So we gonna first. Did you get a chance to listen to James during his interview?
No, I hadn't. No, I hadn't. Unfortunately, I was in a meeting.
You're supposed to lie. You're supposed to say yes.
Look, I'm gonna tell the truth. Here's the thing: we get enough lies from Trump.
Yeah, you're supposed to lie. But yes, you are correct. We do get enough lies. But in any case, some of the things that we talked about was immigration. Not only immigration, we also had the opportunity zone. Why he chose to be a Trump supporter and all that other good stuff. So I do want to bring you in as, more or less a rebuttal so that we can highlight some things, because you are on the other side. You are a Democrat, and you have been a part of the Democratic Party for how long?
Oh, since I was 18.
Since you were 18?
We're going on, what is that, 16 years?
16 years. And so as a Democratic voter, as well as someone who works in the public sector, as I stated on your intro in the beginning, you are located right now in Minnesota, but you are from Cleveland, and you've done a lot of policy works here in Cleveland, and you just so happen to get a chance to do nonprofit work outside of Cleveland. So before I jump into that, tell us what you're doing outside of Cleveland that, will allow you to bring your talents back to Cleveland when you come back here.
Well, I would love to come back home, but especially because it's minus 15 degrees for the last couple of days.
Is that right?
It's been cold.
Okay.
But I'm the director of policy at Outfront Minnesota, and we are the state's nonprofit LGBTQ advocacy organization.
Okay.
So we've been leading the nation in LGBTQ plus policy and advocacy, and also being a thought leader for other organizations and cross-cultural groups that intersect with our space. And so it's been great to be in Minnesota to move these things forward, but I would love to do it at home or across the nation.
Right. So one day you're gonna be back home. All right. So let's jump into this. What we're spotlighting today, or talking about today, is that so we're entering in Trump's second term, and entering in that second term. What I don't want, one, is for the first term to be like the second term. You know what I mean? Yeah, there you go. You still there?
Like the first term.
Right. So what I do want to ensure is that we get a better outcome as it relates to what our country look like. I don't want another pandemic, nor do I want another struggle like we've been having. So what I want to know is, James highlighted the potentials of, not necessarily highlighted, but talk about the opportunity zone as it relates to economic growth. My rebuttal to him was, when we look at the tide raises all boats, and we look at the opportunity zone, what we found is that something that Trump was touting for the workers, for the Americans, for the regular people, was actually something that was benefiting the developers and affecting or disaffecting Black and brown communities. What were your thoughts on the opportunity zone project, and how it really benefited those who already had the money?
Yeah, the opportunity zones were very speculative in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, as you mentioned, it benefited the developers to kind of say, like, hey, these are potential brownfields, these are potential communities that we can quickly buy properties, develop, and double the
Mm-hmm.
price, or bring our own commercial interests to those areas, and maybe bring a couple incentives for local hiring and things. But those are only contained within the time of the development of the project. They are not long lasting jobs.
Right.
One, two, you have to also battle the thing that they haven't really held up over test of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you think about some of the policies, whether from the Trump era, the tax credit, the child tax credits, those have been continued during the Biden administration. Will probably be back again in this new administration. But he's had very few lasting things that have been beneficial. We've had a lot of things that have been detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you look at the opportunity zones, had all this promise, they had all this shine and flash. It's like, oh, we're investing in communities of color, we're investing in low income communities. But like, once that kind of development, that speculative market was invaded and then kind of crashed
Mm-hmm.
once the pandemic started, and then once Biden came in, pretty much effectively ended that and shifted it to what became the Justice 40
Right.
initiative, which is
Mm-hmm.
a largely um, environmental justice and community justice and racial equity built-in program. And so what we're going to see is probably that get rolled back
Mm-hmm.
and turned back into the opportunity zones. But that's not a given, because Trump has not shown any um, inclination to want to do anything to cater to racial equity at this point. So, so who knows what's going to happen? So it's very uh, uh, it's very difficult to say, like, hey, oh, we're going to go back to the opportunity zones and it's going to be the success. Well, it wasn't a success the first time.
Yeah. So
So,
the words matter. So all words matter, and in
hmm
in communicating downward is different than communicating upward. If these Black and brown communities, and those that some of these individuals are people that are Trump supporters and supported Trump, why didn't the communication? So how could they communicate better, not only to the administration but also those that are touting and also stating that all these great things are happening, that the money and the funds are not reaching us and we're not seeing the benefit. So in other words, stop lying about it. So what can we do in communicating better as a group, as a community, when we're being used as a tool, when we're not actually benefiting from the things that these politicians are saying?
so what we can do to communicate better is continue to use the advocates that we have, as well
Mm-hmm.
as ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to say, like, hey, this is what we need, this is what we want, and that means testifying.
Okay.
That means a lot of these projects and programs, when they're getting started and
Mm-hmm.
have initial process, they have an open community input window. So, however, they don't make it very easily for the community to access it.
Okay.
And so we've got to figure out ways where we can break those barriers and allow folks to be able to provide public comment,
Okay.
provide public feedback. Don't be afraid to contact and call your senators who are Republican. It will
Mm-hmm.
be Moreno and Husted, and
Right.
so and say like, hey, this is what we want. And I think specifically when thinking about Cleveland, what we've tended to have when we've had representatives from the area, whether it was um, Congresswoman Fudge, now
Mm-hmm.
Congresswoman Brown,
Mm-hmm.
and even when Senator Sarah Brown was in office, they advocated for the city. And I'm hoping, and I expect, and we should all expect
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Moreno to do the same thing, being from this area,
Okay.
and say like, "Hey, this is what we need. This is what we want," and
Okay.
hold them accountable.
Yeah, I think the problem is, and one of the things that I did earlier in the show is talk about all the things that the Biden administration did that most people didn't understand or didn't know, and the communication downward from the Democratic Party is for me has always been a problem. The Republicans have always been done very well at rhetoric and putting rhetoric out, and also being the first individuals to put rhetoric out, and when it comes to yeah but no one listens to the yeah but in this era. The yeah but yeah but Trump is bad, or Biden did A, B, and C. Yeah but we gave X amount of monies to this college, or we put it in this program. Being the first to communicate things has always been, in a global way, has always been a democratic issue for me. And not having, I guess, the fortitude, the guts to actually every now and again just be raw and real has always been a problem for me. What do you, and this the last thing from your standpoint, based off of how long you've been a part of the Democratic Party, why is it so, why are we communicating our messages so dead or vanilla, so to speak, and fall on deaf ears at times?
So I'm going to answer that question, but I first want to
Mm-hmm.
address something you said earlier.
Yeah.
You had said that whoever answers first or responds first is is who controls the narrative. I would push back and say whoever has the most resonant message
Mm-hmm.
is who
Okay.
gets the answer,
Okay.
because sometimes the first person is always the best. But
Mm-hmm.
what I have learned is that Republicans are very good at saying this is it, boom, and making it, and it has that kind of like catchy, like uh, uh, uh,
They got better
just kind of
marketing.
say like, yeah, they, not better marketing. It's kind of like that hook on
Yeah.
a track
Yeah.
where you're just like, and you I just and it just goes,
Yeah.
and so they're better at that.
Mm-hmm.
However, we've got to be able to take better advantage of that as well, because guess what? We have a younger demographic,
Mm-hmm.
we have a more diverse coalition,
Okay.
and so we've got to be able to capture them and speak to them in a way that is what is how they speak and how they understand things.
Right.
And so one of the smartest things I will give Trump credit is he put his name on those checks when
Mm-hmm.
it came to the stimulus. And so you've got to be able to say like, hey, I did this, boom. But
Right.
and you create, and you can kind of create your own narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And so what Democrats have to do is not just be against stuff. They have to say like, this is what we're for,
Right.
but not get into the weeds. They have to just say this is what it's for. This is how we're going to do it. Boom. And 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 I think that will have more resonance.
I'm with
I
you.
also think the other thing that we've got to do a better job of is when we do talk about things, we have to talk about it in a way that more resonates to everyday people. So we talk about taxes
Mm-hmm.
in this high macroeconomic way, and we've got to talk about it more in like, this is how you're going to the grocery store, or this is what your paycheck looks like
Mm-hmm.
after you pay your taxes. We've got to do better in terms of making sure it goes to X, Y, Z, so that we're creating new opportunities or creating new programs or building new roads with that resource.
Okay.
Not just saying like, oh, it's going to funnel into this and it's going to
Yeah.
do this and it's going to do that, and then it's going to lead to that down the road.
So we need to be less boring.
Yeah.
Let's be real. All right, so we got to jump up out of here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you get back to your minus 15 degrees in Minnesota. Tell the listeners where they can reach you. Go ahead and give your socials.
Yeah, so my socials are at Karlton Laster, and you can on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, LinkedIn, and I believe Twitter. So yeah, just reach me there, and we can go from there.
All right, cool. So we're going to step out. I appreciate both you and James, being a part of everything. So this is Karlton Laster, and earlier we had James Bates. We're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're going to bring in a young, fresh, what is it? The beta generation? And I really want to get, his idea of what he thinks about, because we pay a lot of attention to politics in our household, what he thinks and what goes on. So we're going to take a quick break. Karlton, I appreciate you spending time with us and being with us, all right?
Yep, take care. Go Mob.
All right, go Mob. This is Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back. Unapologetic. Big ups to James as well as Karlton for being a part and taking this time to be a part of our broadcast today. Big ups to Joy King. She published her first book, and that book is. Does anybody? What's the name of the book? What's the name of the book, EJ?
I don't know.
All right, so I want to make sure I get it right. It is Finding Your Best Self: A Guide to Understanding Mental Health. This is Joy's first book. So I do want to bring in. So yesterday, I want to bring in Eric Jr. Eric Jr., come to your left so people can see you on the camera. There you go. Now move the mic closer. Bring it. Yeah, don't manhandle it. All right, there you go. Wow. All right. So yesterday, during one of your off days, while I was at the office, you and Mom and Katie had a talk. And Katie, if you want to, you can come on if you feel up to it. But one of the things that you guys were talking about was politics. And as a part of those politics, there was an article that your mom sent around, in the Atlantic. And the title was How Hitler Dismantled a Democracy in 53 Days. And so you and your mom had a discussion about that. My question to you is, you're an individual who is roughly 2 years away from voting. And so that means midway between the second term of Trump. When you read that article and having that discussions with your mom yesterday, what are some things that came up with you're almost a voter, in the next couple days?
Usually.
Next couple years, that is. Yeah.
What came up was how it intrigued me that Hitler used Germany's own constitution against the people, basically.
Okay.
And that got me thinking, what are the holes in the U.S. Constitution that Trump or anybody could use against the American people?
Right. So the holes or loopholes is something that has been a part of our Constitution for as long as, it existed. When you, as once again, you're a child, and one of the caveats of all children are finding the loopholes in what their parents want and what their parents is doing. So when you think about loopholes, why is it that they can benefit you as a child but can't benefit someone who has an agenda who's not a child?
Well, one, maturity.
Okay.
This man is 70 years old and I'm only 16.
Is the expectation that... Go ahead. Keep going.
Another one is intent.
Okay. Intent?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm intending on getting free time or some more food or some more candy.
Okay. So you're roughly 24 months away from being an adult and having the ability to vote. Do you feel or do you have hope that your generation is going to do better than the millennials or the whatever's after the millennials?
Z.
Z. Okay. So the Gen X, the Gen X, which I belong to, the Millennials, the Z, and whatever you belong to.
I belong to Z.
You belong to Z. All right. So do you think that you guys are going to do a bit better than what we did?
I don't know.
You don't know?
We have some dark sides, but we have some good sides. It's just like every other generation.
All right. So we only got a couple more minutes. Is there any shout outs that you want to have or give before we close out?
As always, shout out to Benedictine High School.
Okay.
Go BHS, go Mob. And that's pretty much it.
All right, Kate. Is there anything you wanted to give a shout out to or say thank you? Or I like to say thank you for you being a part of, this conversation. Any thoughts in this next couple seconds?
Thank you for inviting me on this show, Dad.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate everybody who's listening. Next week, we have another international call. We will be talking to a representative from Africa, the continent, and then we'll get into the country and the politics of where she at. This is Unapologetic on WODU 95.9 FM.